nice to be back in St. Louis, and I was asked the question again, this time by someone from the Cardinal operation, why is the Gaedel Society located in Spokane, Washington? And the simple answer to that is because, well, it's actually not a simple answer, but I remember the day on April 4th, 1962, when I turned 14, and my dad gave me a copy of Back as a Rack as a birthday present. And baseball was everything to me then. I played it, I watched it on TV, I read about it. But I opened that book, and the first chapter of the book was a bottle of beer, a slice of cake, and now Eddie Gaedel. And I read that chapter, and I thought, wow, what an amazing trick. And then I thought a little more about it, and I thought, how cool is that? Because I remember the first time I put on a Little League baseball uniform and looked in the mirror, and I saw a Major League Baseball player looking back. And I thought, someday I'm going to make it. And of course, like millions of other people who started out with that great hope, I never did. But there was a guy who actually made it, a little guy. And so I thought in a way that Eddie sort of represented a lot of people's dreams. But one of the other things that kind of stuck in my mind from that, reading that chapter was, I remember seeing that toward the back, they stole the uniform from the Bat Boy, which I guess isn't exactly an accurate representation of how they came upon it. Mr. Beck's father talked to him about, loaning the uniform, and he was only too happy to do it. But I remember thinking, how cool would it have been to be the kid who gave Eddie Gaedel the uniform right off his back so he could play. And so it's really a big honor for me to be here and on the same podium with that kid who now owns the St. Louis Cardinals. So anyway, baseball has a way of working its way into your heart. The Eddie Gaedel Society started because on the 60th anniversary of Eddie's great performance, I was sitting at O'Doherty's Irish Bar and Grill, having lunch, minding my own business, and baseball fans were tossing around trivia. And I kind of got tired of it, and I said, okay, who's the one baseball player who retired with a perfect on-base percentage after his entire career, and his autograph is now worth more than Babe Ruth's? And after the usual guffaws and denials, I said, Eddie Gaedel. And a guy across the bar from me said, who in the hell is Eddie Gaedel? And to me, who've been carrying Eddie around in my brain since 1962, I said, well, I'll tell you who he is. His career we will celebrate on August 19th, so come on back. So I went and printed up some t-shirts and got a poster and stood up on a bar stool and proposed a toast to Eddie Gaedel, and we proclaimed it Eddie Gaedel Day. Well, and it's grown since then. We have chapters in Elburn, Illinois at the Eddie Gaedel Pub. We have a chapter in Los Angeles. We have a chapter in Evergreen Park, Illinois. And as of last month, when I spent 5 weeks in Ireland, we have a chapter in Clondalkin, Ireland, just outside Dublin. A group of people who weren't otherwise much engaged in baseball have been convinced through my silver tongue efforts that Eddie was the only leprechaun ever to play Major League Baseball. And since Irish pubs are sacred to the memory of little people, I feel there's fertile ground for continuing to build. But about 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call from a man in Austin, Texas, who had gone through the internet, found the Eddie Gaedel Society, and checked in with me. And he's a member of SABR. He and some other SABR folks volunteer once a month to sit down with a group of Alzheimer's patients. And their activity each month is to trigger fond memories of baseball. And he said, I want to do a meeting around Eddie Gaedel, and do you have anything you can send me? So I went down to the basement of our building, and I dug out as many of the Eddie Gaedel t-shirts that I could find, and some of the various things we produced over the year, and I shipped it down to him, and he called me and said, how much I owe you? And I said, nothing, I really appreciate what you're doing. And so they're now forming an Eddie Gaedel chapter in Austin, Texas. So we're small, like Eddie, but we're growing. And we're getting around. And last year I got the chance to come here to St. Louis and meet Bill DeWitt III and sit down, and he took me to see the holy grail of the Eddie Gaedel movement, that jersey. And I got to look at it, and we went and had lunch, and And I looked at Bill and I said, you know, next year is the 65th anniversary of the only 65-pound man to ever play Major League Baseball. And your dad gave him a shirt off his back so he could play. And Bill kind of laughed and said, well, what do you think we should do about it? And I started talking about miniature bats. And Bill was kind enough, I could see by the troubled look in his eye, that he realized that with my mild fanaticism about Eddie, the idea of 30,000 Eddie Gaedel lunatics waving baseball bats around at a Cardinal game probably wasn't within the confines of their insurance policy. And so he thought bobbleheads would make more sense. And no one's ever been injured being hit over the head with a bobblehead. And so when Bill let me know that that was the plan for this year, to celebrate Eddie's 65th anniversary, I couldn't have been happier. I hope some of you will get the program out front that we have. We actually have Eddie's Hall of Fame plaque. I checked in with what the dimensions of it were, and I figured, well, one of these days we're going to get him into Cooperstown. And so I commissioned this plaque, and it weighs about as much as a manhole cover. And we have it over the bar at O'Doherty's, bolted in strong. But unfortunately, the last line of it says, Eddie's uniform number 1/8 is now in the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, which it was at the time. But shortly thereafter, the Wood family requisitioned it back, and now it's here where it really does belong. Because Eddie and Eddie's short career really are a St. Louis story, although it belongs to all the rest of us too. So I think on September 9th, well, realistically, I mean, Eddie's probably never going to get admitted to the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's just probably not going to happen. And I'm coming to accept it. It's difficult. But I do think that on September 9th, Eddie Gaedel will take a walk in the baseball bobblehead heaven. And that's pretty darn good. And I just want to close with a quote that I found from Eddie 2 days after his short career. It was in the newspaper. He said, any young fellow dreams of being a big leaguer. That's what I consider myself. I've got a Browns uniform with number 1/8 on the back, a glove, and a contract. I spent all my life in Chicago and never played ball, and I've always wanted to. I made up for it by becoming a red-hot fan. I followed the game for years. And so, other than those of you, Roy and several others who actually made it, that's what we all are. Eddie, like us, was a red-hot fan, and that's what we are. And from my far outpost at Cardinal Nation, I'm happy to come here and tell you that the Eddie Gaedel movement is alive and well. Thank you.